If you've been struggling to break through to the advanced levels of Italian, then you need to make your practice harder, not easier. You see, our brains, like our muscles, only grow when they're stretched and challenged, and you will need to learn some pretty difficult things to achieve fluency. Now, I didn't talk about speaking only because reading and writing and speaking are all linked, and they form a virtuous cycle where getting better at one makes you better at the other too. I also said that you need to make your practice harder but not more complicated. Now, simplicity and difficulty are linked but fundamentally different. So if you're not sure how to push the boat out and stretch your comfort zone, then let me share with you some simple but difficult action points for you to take away from this video. Now, I'm the biggest hypocrite when it comes to this, since many of my recent videos have been about vocabulary and phrases, but it's very easy to feel like breadth is advancing your Italian, but I would suggest depth is a better way to go. If you learn a lot of words and phrases, the thing is that you will know a bit of what to say in many different contexts, but the likelihood is when these situations actually come about, you panic and you can't remember anything you've learned because a lot of it is at surface level. And because when you learn this, you're relying on your future self to actively remember what you're learning now in the moment. And you're not really embedding it into your long-term memory where you will just get it right automatically. For example, if you're an intermediate Italian learner, you'll know that we use the article lo instead of il for masculine words starting with Z. For example, we would say lo zaino instead of il zaino. Now, when you first learnt this, you probably tried to actively think about it in your practice. When you saw new words like zaino, you probably went through something like this in your head. So the word ends in o, telling me it's masculine and singular. Therefore, the article could be il, but it starts with a funny letter that needs to have lo at the front of it. Therefore, we would say lo zaino. But eventually, after you said or wrote or read this word 20 or 30 times, you just knew it would be lo because it went into your subconscious, and so you were able to do it without thinking. Now, you hopefully also started noticing this with other words like zio or zucchero. You just automatically add a lo there. Now, I can relate to this firsthand through my salsa dancing. I'll learn a new move in class, but when it comes to remembering it a couple of weeks later in the social dance, I'll draw a complete blank. Now, since I've started dancing, I've learned maybe 200 separate moves, but from muscle memory, the ones that I can remember might only count 20 or 25 that I can do without thinking. But those are the ones that actually get me through the social dances. There's nothing worse than, stepping up to dance and thinking, okay, what am I going to do next? What was this move I tried to learn? Can I do this? How do I do it properly? And this is an experience that I know many of you feel when you're speaking Italian. But, like me learning to keep going until I had them in muscle memory and only use those, you can also achieve a similar thing. So here's what I sound like in an actual Italian lesson.
Mi dispiace. Sai come si chiama in italiano? Allora, facciamo l'esercizio numero 3.
And here's a snippet of an Italian radio station.
Come si dividono i 133 cardinali elettori, la mappa dei 5 partiti in conclave, seguaci di Francesco, innovatori in poll, guerra delle sedie per i grandi a San Pietro, Schlein e Conte contro le destre ipocrite, Meloni teme pasticci sui posti ai funerali.
Listening is definitely hard. Of course it is. I mean, it's another language after all. Give yourself a break. But the real trap is thinking that you need to understand everything before you practice. You don't. You get better because you practice, not before. Now, in fact, research on language acquisition shows that early exposure to fast, messy, and half-understood input actually accelerates your listening skills. Stephen Krashen called this comprehensible input, the idea that you learn best when you understand enough to follow along, even if you miss a lot. Even if you're just getting some keywords or phrases that you've learned, it's still helpful. Now, you don't need 100% clarity, you just need enough to kind of stay afloat. Of course, you want to match the level of listening to your current skill level in Italian, but you should always be stretching your comfort zone and making sure that you're learning by listening rather than learning and then listening, because you won't ever be ready. And that's just something you'll need to accept in order to really break through. The great thing is, today there are so many places where you can go to get great practice audios to listen to. You can have a look here on YouTube, Italian shows on Netflix or Amazon Prime, or Italian radio stations or Italian music as well. Or you could go one step further and make your own using AI tools like ChatGPT and 11 Labs. This is really easy. I do it with my students from time to time. It's basically just copy and pasting a script from ChatGPT into 11 Labs and hitting the generate audio button. The best part is you can ask ChatGPT to tweak the script to your difficulty level, desired topic or vocab very easily. Now, if making your own customized audio interests you, then let me know in the comments and I can do a full tutorial on it. It's completely free and it's really easy to do. And once you've got it set up, it should take you less than 5 minutes to make an audio file to practice with. And as a bonus, you also get to follow along with the transcript that you've made from your ChatGPT script. Listen, everybody hates grammar. I mean, here's everything that I think a beginner should learn for grammar, let alone the different tenses that you can learn. And that's not even half of the beginner to advanced roadmap that I covered in a video that I made on this channel. People have this idea that, oh, I'll just learn by listening, or, you know, the stuffy old textbooks don't contain everything. But people who have learned Italian in that way have learned Italian despite not knowing grammar rather than because, which actually makes it harder. Research by Rod Ellis and Bill Van Patten shows that a solid grammatical foundation doesn't just help you speak more accurately, it actually helps you understand the native speakers faster and build sentences more automatically, which goes back to the point we made in the first part of the video. So the real magic comes that the more grammar you master, the actually easier the listening, speaking, and even thinking will be in Italian. And I bet a lot of you watching don't think much in Italian. I know I didn't when I was learning properly. But grammar really helps to solidify how to think, because we do think in many different tenses and situations. Now, I promise it's not just memorizing rules for their own sake, it's about wiring your brain to recognize patterns instantly and without hesitation. Now, the great thing is, like the audio, you can use ChatGPT to make infinite free homework. I've got a video or two talking about this, which I'll put on screen. But if you want me to make a dedicated video as well, let me know in the comments, because it's really easy to just have this as a daily test. Yes, it does take a bit more effort than Duolingo, but if you really need practice, this will work. You know, it's 24/7, it knows everything, and it's just a great way. Thank you for watching. If you want to ignore my advice and learn loads of different vocab, check out these videos here.